She married a stranger to end a war, then watched him become the most terrifying thing in the galaxy. The hall felt like a tomb. Princess Alara stood at the center, her silver skin pale under the harsh lights. Her entire delegation had fled hours ago. None of them could bear to witness the final humiliation. The conflict had lasted 32 rotations. The Xylos Compact had surrendered. They were an ancient civilization. At their peak, they commanded 200 star systems. Humanity was still painting on cave walls when the Xylos first traveled between worlds. Their warships could reduce planets to rubble. Their energy weapons could erase entire armadas from orbit. And yet they had lost. Alara still couldn't process it. The humans were primitive, fragile. Their lives burned out in barely a century on a wet, unstable rock in an unremarkable spiral arm. When the Xylos first encountered Earth, the natives were still throwing spears at each other. The Empire laughed. They called them vermin. They promised to wipe them out within a single season. That was 32 years ago. Now the Xylos begged for mercy. Their battle groups were shattered. Their legions had scattered. Their children went hungry. And the humans never stopped advancing. Kill one, 10 more appeared. They fought with an irrational joy that terrified Alara's people. They charged into hopeless battles grinning. They adapted to every weapon, every tactic, every ambush as though they had seen it all before. The Galactic Concord had dictated the peace terms. Surrender all outer colonies. Pay tribute to Earth's government for a century. And one marriage. A union between Xylos royalty and a human representative. Alara was the Empress's third daughter. No power, no influence. The perfect sacrifice. She had accepted without objection. Her people needed peace. If becoming the wife of some unknown human could save millions of Xylos' lives, she would do it. She was born to serve her bloodline. But standing in that cold, dead room, she felt genuine terror for the first time. The doors hissed open. A single human stepped inside. Alara had only seen their kind through war recordings, screaming figures drenched in blood, faces twisted with battle fury. She expected a monster. The man walking toward her was ordinary. Tall but not remarkably so. Short, dark hair, warm brown skin, simple clothes, no armor, no weapons. He moved with an unhurried calm, like a farmer returning from his fields. His eyes met hers, deep brown, tired, strangely gentle. He stopped at a respectful distance and inclined his head. "Princess Alara, my name is Marcus Chen. I'm honored." She stared. This was Earth's chosen representative? A quiet, plain-looking man who looked like he'd never held anything deadlier than a pen. She had expected a general, a war hero, someone significant. "You are the human envoy," she said, her voice flat with disappointment. "I am." He smiled softly. "I know I'm not what you pictured." "No, you're not." Marcus nodded, unbothered. "This isn't what I wanted either, but I'll try to be a worthy partner. I'll respect you and your culture. I'll learn. I won't bring shame to you." Something unexpected stirred in Alara's chest. His words felt genuine. His gaze held no deception. She crushed the feeling. This was a political transaction. Nothing more. "Let's finish this." The ceremony was brief. A Concord official recited ancient vows. Alara and Marcus repeated them like prisoners signing their sentences. No music, no celebration, no witnesses except ghosts. When it ended, Marcus turned to her. "Would you walk with me? The gardens outside look remarkable." She nearly refused, but something in his expression stopped her. Loneliness, recognition. He looked as lost as she felt. "Very well." They walked in silence among alien plants neither recognized. Marcus stopped to examine a flowering vine, touching each petal with surprising tenderness. "Earth has flowers," he said quietly. "Nothing this color. It's beautiful." Alara watched him, confused. Xylos propaganda described humans as rage-filled brutes, but this man handled blossoms like sacred objects. "What did you do before this?" she asked suddenly. "Before they chose you?" Marcus was silent for a moment, studying a silver bloom. "Soldier, he said finally. Like most humans, just a soldier. She knew he was lying, or at least hiding the worst of it. But she didn't press. They were strangers. She owed him nothing. The journey to the Xylos homeworld took 3 days. Ilara stayed in her quarters, avoiding him completely. At the Imperial Palace, the reception was ice cold. Nobles stared at Marcus like something unpleasant on their footwear. They whispered insults behind decorative fans. They laughed openly. The great Xylos compact, reduced to forcing a princess to bed a common animal. Ilara burned with shame but kept her chin high. She wouldn't show weakness. Marcus walked beside her, unruffled. He nodded politely at the sneering aristocrats. He bowed perfectly to the Empress. He struggled with their language but kept trying. The Empress studied him coldly. "You're smaller than I imagined. Disappointing." "Your Majesty," Marcus replied. "I'll attempt to be useful regardless." The court erupted in laughter, a weak human accepting his place. But Ilara caught something in his eyes, a flicker, fast as lightning, something sharp and dangerous. Then it vanished behind his gentle smile. That night she lay awake thinking about her mysterious husband, the soft voice, the tired eyes, the hands that touched flowers like they were precious, and that flash of hidden violence. She didn't know who Marcus Chen really was, but she was beginning to believe no one did. 3 months passed. Marcus proved to be quiet, unfailingly polite, impossible to offend. His chambers were small and cold, far from her royal suites. He thanked the servants. He ate Xylos food that clearly disagreed with him without complaint. The court mockingly called him the house pet, the peace toy, the insect consort. Some nobles refused to acknowledge him at all. He smiled through everything. Ilara kept her distance. Separate lives, separate duties. The marriage was political theater, but small details began catching her attention. The servants gossiped. Marcus woke before dawn every day. He went to the training grounds while the sky was still black. He ran laps around the palace walls for hours. He lifted heavy stones. He practiced combat drills alone, striking training dummies until his knuckles bled. The servants thought it was comedy, a human pretending to be a warrior, but Ilara asked an old guard named Torvin, a veteran of the human war. His expression turned strange. "I watched him once, Princess. Just once." He paused. "I've killed humans in battle. Many. He's different. The way he moves, the way he watches everything." "What do you mean?" "The look of a predator pretending to be prey." Ilara began observing Marcus secretly. She hid in the shadows of the training grounds at dawn. The servants were wrong. He wasn't slow or clumsy. Every motion was economical, devastating, perfect. During the day, he tripped over furniture and dropped drinking vessels and apologized constantly. But alone in the dark, he was something else entirely. She also noticed other things. When they walked together, Marcus always positioned himself between her and every entrance. His back stayed to walls. His eyes constantly scanned. Corridors, crowds, shadows. He did it automatically, like breathing. At a formal dinner, a noble named Lord Krell told a vicious joke about humans. The entire table laughed. Marcus laughed too, as though he didn't understand the insult. But Ilara saw his hand under the table. Absolutely still. No tremor. No tension. A soldier's hand. Afterward, she confronted him in the gardens. "You're not what you pretend to be." Marcus looked up at the stars. "What do you think I am?" "I don't know. But you're not just a simple soldier. You're hiding something." He smiled sadly. "Everyone hides things, Princess. You hide fear behind cold formality. Your mother hides desperation behind cruelty. Your nobles hide their own inadequacy behind mockery." He turned to face her. "I hide what I must." "Why?" "Because if I didn't, your people would be even more terrified of humans than they already are." A cold shiver ran through Ilara. "What were you really? Before this?" Marcus was quiet for a long breath. When he spoke, his voice was heavier. Have you heard of the harvesters? Ilara's blood went cold. Every Xylos soldier knew that name. Ghost stories whispered in bunkers. Human shock troops who fell from orbit in burning coffins, landing behind enemy lines. They moved like smoke. They killed like plagues. Entire Xylos armies had been annihilated by small harvester teams. Commanders would surrender rather than face them. You were a harvester? She whispered. I was their commander. For 18 years. His voice was flat, honest, terrible. I led the orbital insertion brigades. We went where normal soldiers couldn't. We did what normal soldiers wouldn't. Ilara stared at the gentle man who touched flowers, the quiet husband who smiled at insults. How many of my people did you kill? I don't know the exact number. Many thousands, possibly more. I was exceptionally good at my work. She felt sick. She wanted to scream. This man had murdered her species, destroyed families, burned worlds. And now he slept in her palace, tended her gardens, smiled at her handmaidens. Why did they send you? Why you for this marriage? Marcus's eyes were pained. Because I asked to come, I volunteered. I'm tired, princess. I've been fighting since I was 16. I've seen horrors that would shatter your mind. I've done things I'll never be forgiven for. When the peace came, when they needed someone to marry into the royal family, I raised my hand. Why? Because I wanted to stop. I wanted to put down my weapons forever. I wanted to sleep without nightmares. I wanted to watch flowers grow instead of watching people die. His voice cracked. I wanted to be human again. Ilara didn't know what to feel. Anger, fear, something else she couldn't name. I understand if you hate me. I would hate me too. But I swear, I will never hurt you or your people again. I'm done killing. I just want peace. They stood in silence beneath alien stars. I don't know if I can trust you, she finally said. I know. I don't know if I can forgive what you did. I know that too. But I'll watch you. And if you're lying, if this is some human deception, I'll discover it. Marcus nodded. That's fair. He walked back toward the palace. Ilara watched him go. He looked smaller somehow, crushed by invisible weight. She had married a living weapon, a legend of death, and all he wanted was to grow flowers. She didn't know what to believe anymore. The Empress's birthday celebration was the Empire's grandest event. The great hall blazed with light and music. Thousands of nobles danced, drank, laughed. Servants carried endless trays of delicacies. The air smelled of perfume and exotic spices. Ilara stood near the edge in a flowing silver gown. Marcus stood beside her in formal Earth attire, looking uncomfortable but composed. His language skills had improved. He could hold basic conversations now. The mockery had faded slightly. Some nobles had grown bored. Others had noticed what Ilara had noticed. Tonight Marcus seemed different, more alert, tense. What's wrong? She asked quietly. Something feels off. His eyes moved through the crowd rapidly. The guard placements are wrong, too many unfamiliar servants. Ilara looked around. Everything seemed normal. You're being paranoid. Maybe. But he didn't relax. The Empress sat on her golden throne, smiling, accepting gifts, pretending the Empire wasn't broken. Ceremonial dancers moved across the floor. Musicians played ancient songs. Marcus moved closer to Ilara. His hand touched her arm. When I say run, you run. Understand? What are you? Promise me. His voice sent ice through her heart. I promise. The explosion came 3 seconds later. The wall behind the Empress shattered. Fire and smoke engulfed the chamber. Screams erupted everywhere. Nobles fell bleeding. Masked assassins poured through the breach carrying plasma rifles. The Imperial Guard rushed forward and were cut down in seconds. This was no random attack. This was a military strike. Ilara froze. Her body refused to move. People ran past her screaming. Blood sprayed across her silver dress. A masked figure turned toward her, rifle aimed at her chest, finger tightening on the trigger. She was about to die. Then Marcus moved. She didn't see him move. One heartbeat he was beside her. The next he was in front of her. His hand caught the assassin's rifle and twisted so fast the man's arm snapped audibly. Marcus took the weapon and fired twice. 2 more attackers fell. It happened in less than 2 seconds. Marcus shoved Alara behind a stone pillar. "Stay there." His voice was different now. Cold, empty, machine-like. He turned and walked into the chaos. What Alara witnessed would haunt her forever. Marcus moved through the assassins like wind through dry grass. He wasn't fighting. Fighting was what happened between equals. This was extermination. An attacker swung a blade at his head. Marcus sidestepped, caught the blade, and opened the man's throat in one fluid motion. Another fired at him. Marcus dropped, rolled forward, came up with the rifle, shot the man twice, threw the empty weapon into a third attacker's face, and broke that man's neck with his bare hands. All in under 4 seconds. There was no wasted movement, no hesitation, no emotion. Every action flowed into the next like water downhill. A small blade appeared in his hand. She never saw where it came from. The knife danced through the air, cutting throats, puncturing chests, severing arteries. 5 attackers rushed him at once. He killed them all in 7 seconds. The remaining assassins finally noticed the nightmare among them. They stopped hunting guests and turned to face the human. They gathered together, firing from all directions. Marcus wasn't there. He had moved before they pulled triggers. Now he was behind them, killing 2 more before they could turn. He took a rifle from a corpse and shot 5 men in rapid succession. One attacker got close enough to hit Marcus across the face. His head snapped sideways. Blood flew. He turned back slowly, looking at the man who had struck him. The attacker's eyes went wide with absolute terror. Marcus killed him with 1 blow to the chest that stopped his heart. The entire attack lasted less than 3 minutes. 42 armed assassins had entered the hall. None left alive. When the killing stopped, Marcus stood in a circle of bodies. Blood covered his hands, his face, his clothes. He breathed slowly, deeply, scanning for more threats. There were none. The Imperial Guard finally arrived in force, delayed by other attackers outside. They stopped at the entrance and stared. The human stood alone among 42 corpses. Marcus walked back to Alara's pillar. Terrified nobles scrambled out of his way. He knelt beside her. His face was splattered with blood that wasn't his. But his eyes had gone soft again. Gentle. The Marcus she knew. "Are you hurt?" he asked quietly. Alara couldn't speak. She stared at him like a stranger. Because he was. The man she thought she knew didn't exist. This was the real Marcus Chen, the harvester, the commander, the weapon. "Alara, are you hurt?" "No," she whispered finally. "No, I'm not hurt." Marcus nodded, relieved. He stood and faced the Imperial Guard. "The Empress, is she alive?" The guards exchanged glances. One answered, "She's alive. Her personal protectors reached her in time." "Good. Secure the palace. There may be more attackers." The guards hesitated, then obeyed. They had just seen what this human could do. Marcus offered Alara his hand. "Can you stand?" She took it, legs shaking. She looked around the hall. Blood, bodies, screams. And her husband, drenched in the blood of 42 men, looking at her with tired, gentle eyes. "Who are you?" she whispered. Marcus smiled sadly. "I'm what your people made me. I'm what the war made me. I didn't want you to see this, I'm sorry. You saved my life. You saved everyone's lives. Perhaps." Alara looked at the carnage, then back at her husband. The monster, the weapon, the flower-touching gentle man. "Take me to my chambers, please." Marcus nodded. He put his arm around her and led her through the blood and death out of the ruined hall away from the screams. She didn't know what to feel. Fear, gratitude, horror, wonder. She had married a god of war, and tonight she had watched him reveal his true face. 1 year after the assassination attempt, enemy warships darkened the sky. The Creel hegemony had waited decades. They watched the Xylos and humans tear each other apart. They built their forces patiently. Now both sides were exhausted, the perfect moment to strike. Ilara was in her chambers when alarms blared. Red lights flashed. She ran to the window and froze. Ships. Thousands of them. They covered the sky like a black cloud devouring the sun. Creel warships, each bristling with weapons, each carrying legions of soldiers. This wasn't a raid. This was annihilation. The palace collapsed into panic. Servants screamed. Guards shouted useless orders. Nobles demanded answers no one had. Ilara found Marcus in the war room. He stood over a tactical display, studying enemy positions with chilling calm. He had seen worse. The Empress sat on her throne surrounded by generals. She looked small and old and terrified. "How many ships?" she asked. 1,112, a general answered. "Estimated ground forces, 2 million soldiers. They'll reach orbit in 5 hours. Can we fight them?" The general hesitated. "Your Majesty, our fleets were destroyed in the human war. Our armies are scattered. We have perhaps 50,000 soldiers capable of fighting against 2 million. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The Empress closed her eyes. "Then we surrender. We accept their terms. We save what we can." "Your Majesty." Marcus's voice cut through the room. Everyone turned. The human, the peace trophy, the insect consort. He had never spoken in war council before. "What do you want, human?" a general demanded. "Don't surrender. Give me command of your remaining forces, and open a channel to Earth." The generals laughed. Even the Empress looked incredulous. "You command our forces? You're one man. What can you do against 2 million Creel?" Marcus smiled. It wasn't a gentle smile. It was the smile Ilara had seen in the Great Hall when he stood among 42 bodies. "I can win. The humans won't help us. We were enemies. They have no reason to save us." Marcus shook his head. "You don't understand humans, Your Majesty. We don't abandon family. And your daughter..." He looked at Ilara. "She's my wife. She's human now where it matters. Earth won't let her die." The room went silent. The Empress looked at Ilara. Ilara met her mother's eyes and nodded slowly. She didn't know if Marcus was right. But after everything she had seen, she trusted him. "Very well," the Empress said finally. "You have command. Do what you can." Marcus bowed. "Open that channel to Earth and clear the war room. I have work to do." The human fleet arrived 4 hours later. They erupted from faster-than-light space like a storm breaking across the sky. Not dozens of ships, hundreds. Earth had sent everything: carriers, destroyers, battleships, fighters, bombers, troop transports. The Creel fleet stopped moving. They had expected a broken empire with no defenders. Instead, they found humanity waiting for them. A message broadcast across all channels. Marcus's voice, calm and cold. "This is Commander Marcus Chen of the United Earth Forces. The Xylos Compact is under human protection. Any hostile action against this world will be considered an act of war against Earth. You have one chance to leave. Take it." The Creel did not leave. The battle began. Ilara watched from the command center as ships exploded in the sky. Human and Creel vessels tore each other apart in flashes of light and fire. The tactical display showed thousands of dots moving, dying, disappearing. But the ground invasion came anyway. The Creel had too many soldiers. Even with the human fleet fighting above, thousands of dropships made it through. Enemy troops landed across the planet. Marcus organized the defense. He split the remaining Xylos soldiers into small teams. He positioned them in cities, mountains, forests. He turned every street into a trap, every building into a fortress. "We can't beat them in open battle," he told his officers. "So we won't fight in the open. We'll fight in the shadows. We'll make them pay for every meter. We'll break their will." The Creel expected to conquer a weak empire. They found a nightmare instead. Marcus led from the front. He didn't sit in the command center. He went to the battlefields himself, fighting beside common soldiers. He showed them how to ambush patrols, how to set traps, how to survive. The Xylos soldiers were astonished. They had mocked this human for months. Now he bled with them, killed with them, nearly died with them. He learned their names. He mourned their deaths. He never asked them to do anything he wouldn't do himself. Days passed. Then weeks. The Creel advance slowed, then stopped. They had expected to conquer the planet in days. Now their soldiers died by thousands. Human and Xylos fighters attacked from everywhere and nowhere. Supply lines were cut, communications jammed. Officers assassinated in their beds. The Creel commander demanded reinforcements. None came. The human fleet had cut off all retreat. They were trapped on a hostile world, bleeding out slowly. Ilara watched Marcus return from each battle. Always wounded. Burns, cuts, broken bones. He never complained. He barely slept. He barely ate. He just kept fighting. One night she found him alone in the gardens, staring at the sky. His arm was in a sling, his face bruised and cut. "How much longer?" she asked. "Days. Maybe weeks. We're winning, but slowly." "You're killing yourself." Marcus smiled tiredly. "Perhaps. But every day I fight is another day your people survive. Every hour I live is another hour closer to victory." "And if you die?" He looked at her. His eyes were soft despite the exhaustion. "Then I die doing something that matters. Protecting something that matters." Ilara felt tears burning. She had hated this man, feared him. But now, watching him destroy himself to save her people, she felt something else entirely. "You're the strangest human I've ever met," she whispered. "I'm the only human you've ever met." "That's true." She sat beside him in the garden under the stars, with war raging across her world, and for the first time since they met, she took his hand and held it tight. "Don't die," she said. "That's an order from your princess." Marcus laughed softly. "Yes, my lady." They sat together until dawn. Then Marcus stood, picked up his weapons, and went back to war. The final battle came on a cold morning beneath smoke-gray skies. The Creel had gathered their remaining forces in their command ship. A massive vessel landed in the northern mountains, turned into a fortress. Inside was their general, a warlord named Vorn, who had conquered 15 worlds. He had 200,000 soldiers left. He knew he was losing. He knew retreat was impossible. So he decided to make one final push. All 200,000 soldiers marched south toward the imperial city. If they captured the Empress, they could end the war. Marcus knew they were coming. He had planned for this moment. He gathered his forces, 50,000 soldiers, human and Xylos, fighting together. They had learned to trust each other in the weeks of battle. They had bled together, died together, won together. "Today we end this," Marcus told them. "They outnumber us 4-1. They're desperate and dangerous. Many of us will die, but we will not lose. We will not let them take our home." The soldiers cheered, human voices and Xylos voices mixing, a sound that would have been impossible 1 year ago. The two armies met on a wide plain outside the city. The Creel came like a wave of black armor and razor teeth, massive creatures, strong and brutal, bred for war across generations. They screamed their battle cries and charged. The combined forces held their ground. The battle raged for hours. The plain turned red with blood. Bodies piled so high that soldiers had to climb over them to reach enemies. The air filled with smoke, screams, and the endless crack of weapons fire. Marcus fought in the front lines. He had done this many times before. But today was different. Today he fought for something beyond duty. He fought for the world that had become his home, for the people who had become his family, for the woman who had become his reason to live. He moved through the enemy like fire through dry grass. His weapons never stopped. His body never slowed. Creel soldiers fell before him like autumn leaves. Other soldiers saw him and felt courage flood their hearts. If one human could fight like that, so could they. But Marcus had a different mission. While the armies clashed, he gathered a strike team, 50 soldiers, the best from both species. Their target, the enemy command ship. Their mission, kill General Vorn and end the war. They left the main battle and moved through chaos toward the northern mountains. They fought through enemy patrols and guard posts. They lost soldiers along the way. Each death hit Marcus like a physical blow. He knew their names. He had trained with them. Now he watched them die. By the time they reached the command ship, only 20 soldiers remained. The ship was enormous, larger than most city buildings. 10,000 Creel soldiers guarded it. Getting inside seemed impossible. Marcus looked at his team. Humans and Xylos, young and old. Scared but determined. We go in hard and fast, he said. We find the general, we kill him, then we get out. A young Xylos soldier raised his hand. What if we can't get out? Marcus smiled grimly. Then we make sure we take him with us. They attacked at dawn. Explosives blew open a side entrance. They moved into the ship like a blade into flesh. Fast, deadly, unstoppable. The fighting inside was brutal. Close quarters. No room to dodge. No time to think. Marcus led from the front. His rifle emptied. He dropped it and drew his blade. He fought hand to hand against creatures twice his size. He killed and killed and killed. More of his team fell. Each death made him fight harder. Each death made him more determined. By the time he reached the general's chamber, he was alone. The door opened onto a vast throne room. General Vorn sat on a seat of metal and bone. He was massive, 3 meters tall, covered in scars from 100 battles. His eyes were yellow and cold. His teeth were razor sharp. The human war god, Vorn said. I've heard stories about you. You've killed many of my soldiers. Marcus walked into the room slowly. His body was covered in wounds. His armor was torn and burned. His blade dripped with blood that wasn't his. And I'm going to kill many more, Marcus said, starting with you. Vorn laughed, a deep rumbling sound. You're one human, wounded, tired, no ammunition, no soldiers. What can you possibly do to me? Marcus smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I'm not just one human. I'm the reason your ancestors learned to fear the dark. I'm the thing that hides in shadows and makes monsters scream. I'm the death that falls from the sky. He raised his blade. And I'm going to end you. Vorn roared and charged, fast for his size, crossing the room in seconds. His claws swung at Marcus's head with enough force to crush stone. Marcus was faster. He ducked under the blow, rolled sideways, and slashed across Vorn's leg. The general stumbled. Marcus pressed the attack, striking again and again, each blow precise, each strike deadly. Vorn was stronger, but Marcus had fought stronger enemies before. He had spent his entire life training for moments like this. Every movement was perfect. Every hit landed exactly where needed. The general slowed as blood poured from his wounds. His attacks became wild and desperate. Marcus remained calm, patient, cold. The duel lasted 4 minutes. Lasted. At the end, Vorn lay on the floor in pieces. Marcus stood over him, breathing hard. His blade was broken. His body was broken. But he was alive. He activated his communicator with shaking hands. This is Commander Chen. The general is down. The enemy has no leader. The response was immediate. Cheering, screaming, crying with relief. The combined forces had won the battle outside. When news of Vorn's death spread, the remaining Creel soldiers surrendered. The war was over. Marcus walked out of the command ship as the sun rose over the mountains. His team was dead. His body was failing, but he had done what he set out to do. Rescue ships found him an hour later. They carried him back to the Imperial City, where doctors worked for days to save his life. Ilara stayed by his bed the entire time. She held his hand and talked to him even when he couldn't hear. She told him about her childhood, her dreams, things she had never told anyone. When Marcus finally woke, she was there. We won, she said softly. You won. Marcus smiled weakly. We won, all of us together. Ilara looked at him, this man who had killed thousands, who had saved millions, who had nearly died to protect a world not his own. You're a hero. The galaxy will remember your name. They're already calling you the god of war. Marcus closed his eyes. I don't want to be remembered as a god of war. I don't want to be remembered for killing. He opened his eyes and looked at her. I want to be remembered as a man who found peace. A man who found something worth living for. Alara felt tears on her face. She leaned down and kissed his forehead gently. Then stop being a god, and just be my husband. Marcus laughed softly. It hurt his broken ribs, but he didn't care. That sounds perfect. Months passed. The Xylos Compact rebuilt. The alliance with Earth grew stronger. Marcus became an advisor to the Empress, helping train soldiers and build defenses. But he never fought again. He kept his promise. He put down his weapons forever. Alara found him in the gardens one evening watching the sunset. He wasn't alone. A small child sat on his lap, a Xylos girl with silver skin and curious eyes. A war orphan, one of thousands that Marcus and Alara had adopted. What are you thinking about? Alara asked. Marcus smiled. How strange life is. 1 year ago I was a weapon, a killer, a monster. He looked at the child in his arms. Now I'm a father, a husband, a man. Alara sat beside him and leaned her head on his shoulder. Do you regret any of it? The fighting, the killing, everything you did? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that so many people died. I regret the blood on my hands. He paused. But I don't regret protecting the people I love. I don't regret finding you. The child fell asleep in his arms. The sun disappeared below the horizon. Stars appeared in the sky, bright and peaceful. I love you, Alara said quietly. I never thought I'd say that to a human. But I do. Marcus kissed her forehead gently. I love you too, more than I've ever loved anything. They sat together in the garden watching the stars, holding each other close. The war was over. The killing was done. The god of war had become just a man, and for the first time in his life, that man was happy.